Welcome, everybody, to Player Profiler. Today, I am your host, Brendon Booth. I am sitting here in the heat dome that is covering Northern California. So I apologize if my microphone is picking up the air conditioner because it's totally necessary. We have a great show. I have a great show for you today. Today is the last day of OTAs. A lot of you might not know what that means. Well, let's face it, you're at Player Profiler, so just about all of you know what that means. But for those of you who don't, OTAs is on-field team activities. The NFL really restricts the way that teams can practice in the off-season, and so they have a few weeks of on-field training activities. It's no contact, no pads, etc. Basically, it's the time for offensive and defensive coordinators to install their programs, and for new guys to kind of get acclimated and develop rapport, develop relationships with the veterans. It's very integral part of the preseason, and it's over. Today is the last day. Next week they have mini camps, and then after that there will be a long break, and players will go their separate ways, vacations, family, etc., before they all meet up for training camp to get ready for the preseason games and then kick off the 18-week regular season. So we're finishing up the OTAs. That's today's top story. Few updates from OTAs, position battles, etc. I also have, before we get into that, we have some player news. We have some injury news. We have other things. So stay tuned, and we will get right into it. All right, welcome to Player Profiler today with Brendon Booth. I am Brendon Booth, and I am here with you to go over all of the week that was in the NFL. OTAs are wrapping up. We will get to that in a little bit. First, let's start with some depth chart updates. Now, it appears, news out of Indy, it appears as though Trey Sermon will be the primary backup to Jonathan Taylor. RB2 for Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon has bounced around the NFL. He's been with Philadelphia. He's been with San Francisco. He's landed with the Indianapolis Colts. And it appears that he has finally found somebody to put some stock in him. He came out of Ohio State. He was pretty highly regarded in not necessarily fantasy circles, but NFL circles. People thought he was going to have an okay career, and he's just basically bounced around as a career roster filler, practice squad guy, never really stuck anywhere. So essentially what we're looking at is some clarity. The Indianapolis Colts. Why is that so hard to say? Indianapolis Colts. They basically have the running back position set in stone. Quote, while Jonathan Taylor was away, it was quite clear that Trey Sermon is the next man up at running back. In terms of the passing down back, Evan Hull appeared to get the initial looks ahead of Tyler Goodson, according to some reports. These rumblings out of Indianapolis make a hierarchy of Taylor, Sermon, Evan Hull, and Goodson. And that's seemingly inevitable heading into training camp. Now, Evan Hull was a combine darling in 2023 before he got hurt. And on the fantasy side, on the dynasty side, he is the guy other than Jonathan Taylor in that running back room that I would want to own. I don't have a lot of faith in Trey Sermon, but who knows? Weirder things have happened. Now, let's move on to the New York Giants. There's a lot of New York Giants news. Of course, you're in the number one media environment in the country, and a lot of people put a lot of stock in the New York Giants. So we will talk about Giants news. In Giants news that has shaken the NFL world to its foundations, Gary Brightwell has been waived. He was a 6th-round pick in 2021. That was sarcasm if you didn't catch that. He played sparingly in 3 seasons. This leaves their running back room as Devin Singletary, Eric Gray, Joshua Corbin, or Jashawn Corbin, Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Dante Miller. Tyrone Tracy Jr. being the draft pick. Singletary is the favorite to get the bulk of the carries. Eric Gray has received a lot of first-team reps in OTAs. Don't know why Eric Gray hasn't really had much of a career. There was a lot of hype with Tyrone Tracy after the draft. But if you're a Tyrone Tracy owner, he it's one of the least talented running back depth charts in the NFL, and Tracy's going to get more looks than not. He's going to get an opportunity to get on the field fairly soon. So keep an eye on that position battle. It's I apologize. Trying to record, hit the buttons, have a cough, and then send it live. Recording live. All right, injury updates. We got some injury updates going on, and at the moment, Chris Olave, New Orleans Saints wide receiver, is dealing with a shoulder injury. Should be a big year for Chris Olave. Michael Thomas is not in New Orleans anymore, and spoiler alert, we will talk about this a little bit later when I get into the top story. Clint Kubiak, former passing game coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers, is the new offensive coordinator in New Orleans. We've seen what coaches out of the San Francisco 49ers, aka Shanahan, aka Gruden, all the way back to Al Davis, guys coming out of that tree. We've seen what they can do. Mike McDaniel in Miami. I mean, there's guys all over the NFL that have come out of that coaching system and have done great things. So Clint Kubiak, we saw what he did last year with the 49ers passing game, and he is taking over in New Orleans. So what that means is that there should be a really good opportunity for Chris Olave and Derek Carr to connect, and big years for both of them. Now, Olave had been practicing in full, but he's wearing a no contact jersey. He hurt himself in the weight room, and that's never a good thing. If you've ever had a weightlifting injury, those suck, because all you want to do is continue to lift, and you can't really. So Matt Paras reported that Chris Olave hurt his shoulder while working out in the weight room. He noted that Olave practiced in full during OTAs. However, it was in a no contact jersey. No confirmation has been made on whether or not the injury is a holdover from carrying Derek Carr on his back last year. That is some well-placed snark from our Player Profiler News team. And you should be following Player Profiler News. Go ahead and go to www.playerprofiler.com/news, and you'll get our aggregated news updates. Definitely worth a follow. Also go to Twitter and do that. We got some good writers. I'm just saying that. Saints alpha wide receivers looking to make a leap into the tier of young first-round receivers such as Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and CeeDee Lamb. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a big proponent of third-year breakouts, and I think Chris Olave is primed to jump into that top 10. However, the Saints offense stalled in the red zone a lot last year, and Olave finished up as the wide receiver 16. So Clint Kubiak is there. He's got more pre-snap motion. There's new looks in the running and passing game. In 2023, Chris Olave was 6th in air yards with 1,834 and 4th in deep targets with 32. Derek Carr, surprisingly, is one of the leaders in deep throws and also checkdowns. So there's not really a lot of middle of the field stuff with him. So Olave, a lot of deep targets, and look for him to have a pretty big year. He had 5 touchdowns last year, and touchdowns, they're not really sticky. They're not predictive. But if he has some positive regression into the double digits, he's going to fly high this year. Cleveland, Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is taking his knee rehab day by day. He's come back from another injury, suffered it in the second week of the 2023 season, got hit by Minkah Fitzpatrick, and and it led to Jerome Ford getting the reps that he wanted. Nick Chubb said, quote, "I like where I'm at. I'm where I need to be. The biggest thing for me is getting better every day." So it's not like he's full go 100% at the moment, but he likes where he's at on his road to recovery. Chubb is going into the rehab process day by day and making sure he doesn't get ahead of himself. The Browns reworked his 2024 contract, turning it into an incentives filled contract due to the risk of his age and his knee concern. Chubb is, he's been a guy. Like Nick Chubb has always been a dude, but hampered by injuries, not something that we like to look at. All right, player news. Let's get into some player news. After 8 years with the New York Giants, Sterling Shepard is trying to revive his career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He signed a 1-year deal that reunites him with Oklahoma teammate Baker Mayfield. He's at the point where his best days are behind him from production standpoint. He's going to be entering a pretty crowded wide receiver room with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Trey Palmer as a deep threat and return guy, rookie Jalen McMillan, who I feel is severely underrated in real life and on the fantasy scene. He had some injuries his last year at Washington, and it should have been his coming out party. He had a really, really good year in 2022, 2023, not so much. And Jalen Polk, who is now with the New England Patriots, was able to surpass him in the eyes of most dynasty owners. But, talent over situation, I believe Jalen McMillan is a better wide receiver than Jalen Polk, and it's the battle of the Jalens. All right, Shepard was a 2016 second-round pick for the Giants. He has had lots and lots of injuries. He comes back and shows a lot of talent and production, and then he gets hurt again. So kind of like Raheem Mostert, he's always making you wonder what an injury-free career would have looked like. He's a guy that we've all really, really hoped and waited for. And he's going to finish out the twilight of his career as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Moving on to Santa Clara. Let's talk about the 49ers for a second. Now, they did lose their passing game coordinator, Clint Kubiak, to the New Orleans Saints, but they have Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was second among all quarterbacks last year in fantasy points per drop back. It's an interesting stat, and you want to talk about sticky predictives. That's one of those that correlates year over year. So look for Brock Purdy to repeat in that top 5, top 4 in fantasy points per drop back. So Purdy coming out, he's high on a lot of underrated sleeper lists. He had an impressive rookie season. He exploded on the scene with MVP caliber stats. He was in the MVP conversation quite a bit last year. 4,280 passing yards, 31 touchdowns to only 11 interceptions. That 3-to-1 touchdown to interception rate is that's pretty fantastic. And if he can get closer to the 4,500 yards passing range this year, he doesn't run a lot, but he certainly can chuck it. He's also got Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, for now Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, and they just added a couple of wide receivers in the draft. Now, Ricky Pearsall from Florida was the one who earned the draft capital. However, Jacob Cowing out of Arizona might have a better profile. Ricky Pearsall, promising fantasy prospect. He's been gaining attention for his blossoming rapport with quarterback Brock Purdy. There has been some minor practice soreness. Early development has impressed head coach Kyle Shanahan, suggesting breakout potential. There is uncertainty regarding Brandon Ayuk's contract and Deebo Samuel's status with the team. There had been some talks and rumors about the June 1 cuts and whether Deebo Samuel was a candidate for that. But Ricky Pearsall has been stepping up and demonstrating his skills and chemistry with Purdy. He's athletic, He's reliable with his hands, and he has elite separation skills. And all of those things contribute to enhancing his value, especially if Ayuk's situation creates more chances. If you are into fantasy, watch Pearsall closely for his rookie impact. Now, typically, rookie wide receivers don't really start. I mean, unless you're Puka Nacua, it's very rare for rookie wide receivers to have full season breakouts starting with week one. A lot of the times, what you see is rookie wide receivers like Justin Jefferson having a slow start. It does take a little bit of time for players to learn the NFL game, and wide receivers, quarterbacks, etc. A lot of times it's first year, second half of the first season, into the second season that it really starts to click for them. So I would look for Pearsall to be productive. If he's going to be, it's going to be in the second half of the season. Now, staying in San Francisco, Brendon Willis is vying for the tight end 2 spot with the San Francisco 49ers. He's his nickname is Weight Room Willie because he's a weight room. He's dedicated to the weight room. So he's improved his blocking skills, but he's got tough competition. He's very valuable because of his athleticism and versatility alongside George Kittle. But Cameron Latu had a good profile coming out as a rookie in 2023 and then spent the year hurt. So if he can kind of work his way back into the system, Brendon Willis, Cameron Latu, it's a nice little tight end battle for the tight end 2. And spoiler alert, we've got more tight end 2 battles coming. Kyler Murray working with Greg Dortch. Greg Dortch was undrafted out of Wake Forest. He bounced from the Jets, the Panthers, the Falcons, finally landing with the Cardinals. In his first full season with the Cardinals, he had career highs, 52 catches, 467 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. Kyler I apologize. Kyler is quoted as saying, quote, "If he's 6'3", he's a top 5 receiver." Okay. Is he 6'3"? No. That's some high praise from a quarterback that has played with CeeDee Lamb. Look for Dortch to carve out a decent deep threat role in the offense with the they've lost some wide receivers this offseason, including Hollywood Brown, who had some good deep ball skills. Kyler Murray will be another year removed from his ACL injury, so that second year back is usually the one where everything kind of falls into place again. The offense is kind of lacking in wide receiver experience. They do have Marvin Harrison Jr., who should acclimate pretty quickly. What I said earlier about wide receivers taking some time to kind of for everything to click, Marvin Harrison Jr. won't necessarily be an exception to that, even though he was the first wide receiver off the board. But if there's anybody who is a candidate for having a breakout week one, it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, etc. But spoiler alert, we'll talk a little bit more about them later. Dortch's small size keeps him from being a true sleeper candidate. His best value comes as a best ball player, so go ahead and look for him in best ball, 20-point games or 0. Not out of the question. Let's take a break real quick. We're going to get a message in here from our fearless leader, Matthew Kelly, and then I want to talk about a guy that makes me sad. We'll get into that. Let's talk about the rookie guide.
It is NFL draft season and the wait is over. The Player Profiler Rookie Guide is available. It's live on the site now. Right there in the nav bar, click on the 2024 Rookie Guide to download it. It's so comprehensive. We're ranking and writing up more players than anybody. And this year, we're providing athleticism scores. We're doubling the number of advanced stats on each player profile. And guess who's back? Cody Carpentier. But it's not just him. It's Theo. It's Matty Kiwoom. It's John Lobb. And the Undroppables. all coming together to provide their composite rankings. And this year we're adding Superflex Tight End Premium because that's now become such a popular format. So get those composite ranks, get the write-ups, the comps, the stats and metrics you want. If you already have Dynasty Lux, you already have it. But if you don't, it's right there in the nav bar on playerprofiler.com. It's $20. It's not the first. It's not the most expensive, but it is the best.
Thank you, Matt. And as a member of both Player Profiler and the Undroppables, I can say it is one of the most elite rookie guides that's out there. All right. I want to let's bring it down for a second. I want to bring the mood down. I want to talk about a guy that makes me sad. And I went to college in Arkansas. I grew up in Northern California. I went to college in Arkansas, and it's almost as if when you move to Arkansas, you are required to learn the hog call and declare your fealty for the Arkansas Razorbacks. There's really not much else in the state besides Arkansas Razorback sports. So having gone to college, and if you don't go to the University of Arkansas, essentially you're a Razorbacks fan first and then a fan of your alma mater. Arkansas Tech, I love you, Wonder Boys, but it's all about the Hogs. And one of the wide receivers that I was huge on coming out of the University of Arkansas was Titans wide receiver Treylon Burks. 6'3", 215 pounds. The guy has the physical profile. He was clocked by AWS as, almost hitting 22 miles an hour on the field. He had a breakout game against Alabama as a junior, which completely put him on the map. And I had high hopes for Treylon Burks. The only thing about Treylon Burks, the only way that he possibly could have stumbled on his entrance into the NFL was if he was drafted by the Tennessee Titans. Oh God. And that's what happened. So Burks comes in, deals with some injuries. He's got Ryan Tannehill, Malik Willis battling it out for who's going to not throw him the ball, because neither of them looked his way because they couldn't. And then Will Levis comes in. He takes over. But right as Burks was on the precipice of breaking out as the Titans wide receiver 1 in 2023, they went out and they got DeAndre Hopkins. And so Burks goes through the season, doesn't get a whole lot of looks, and so okay, he's going to be the wide receiver 2. Maybe they'll utilize his talent and make sure he gets the ball a little bit more, and then they go out and they get Calvin Ridley. So every single thing that could possibly go wrong for Treylon Burks in his career has gone wrong for Treylon Burks in his career, sadly. So news out of Titans camp is that he's going to have to be a special teams contributor in 2024. Now, special teams contributions is not unheard of for rookies to make it onto the field, but third-year veterans who have been in the system for a while, are familiar to the team, they usually already have a predestined path to touches. Treylon Burks, apparently, according to head coach Brian Callahan, is going to have to earn those. He stated that those who aren't starters will have to justify their roster spot by being special teams players. Yeah, that sucks. And it's again, it's not something that the typical third-year wide receiver has to go through. He's clearly behind Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins and Tyler Boyd they brought in also. I failed to mention that. So at best, he could be looking at wide receiver 4 at the moment. He didn't gain a whole lot of chemistry with Will Levis last season, and he's not going to be a fantasy contributor unless an injury arises to somebody else, or possibly he gets traded. He has almost no dynasty value. He has 0 redraft value. I just did a video on him last night. At another channel, and he's not even draftable. His ADP, according to Fantasy Pros, is in the 260s, which, I mean, that doesn't even register in redraft formats. So dormant Treylon Burks' career, sad to see. But hey, let's move on. Let's get happy and let's talk about Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson, the target hog of target hogs. He has moved from Pittsburgh to Carolina, and new Panthers offensive coordinator Brad Idzik is hyped and ready for Deontay Johnson to take on the X role at wide receiver in 2024. Not a great relationship with Pittsburgh. They traded him to the Carolina Panthers in the offseason. And, Deontay Johnson, we've been watching the dude 150, 170 targets every year. So maybe he can be the key that unlocks Bryce Young. Look out for that in your dynasty leagues. In a behind-the-scenes video, Coach Idzik can be seen talking with Deontay Johnson about wanting Johnson to be the X receiver. He spoke to defenses needing. Idzik spoke to defenses having to respect Johnson with confidence that Johnson can make teams pay for not putting their best defenders on him. So look for Deontay Johnson to get singled up with the best cornerbacks that the other teams have to offer, because if they don't, he's going to take his 144, 169, and 146 targets in the last 3 years and do something with it. So right now he's 45th wide receiver on Underdog. He's a round 7 guy. Don't be afraid to take him in round 6. He's the player profiler 42nd ranked wide receiver in our dynasty wide receiver rankings. He should outplay his ADP this year. He's currently considered a value. So Deontay Johnson, Carolina, let's unlock Bryce Young. I'm here for it. All right. Bijan Robinson, we'll talk about it. The Atlanta Falcons running back. He is seeking to become the number 1 overall running back in the fantasy landscape. He has his eyes set on a similar path to Christian McCaffrey. He says the plan for him in 2024 is to be utilized in a manner similar to McCaffrey in San Francisco. He asked to elaborate. He spoke of being utilized as a traditional running back on early downs, staying on the field on later downs, being used in creative ways out of the backfield via the passing game. This is what we saw coming for Bijan, and all it took was running Arthur Smith out of town. It signals a potential increase in snap share for Bijan Robinson. For him to get close to, Christian McCaffrey he's in a tier by himself among all fantasy positions. But Bijan has to stay on the field, and Tyler Algier can't get any looks. Raheem Morris wants to deploy Bijan as much as possible. Algier's good. He could be an RB1 somewhere else, so there still could be a tandem in the backfield. But looking at Bijan's numbers in 2023, if he had more catchable passes in 2023, he would have been right there in the top 3 running backs fantasy-wise. Still not quite on McCaffrey's level. But I mean, the only thing that what it takes for somebody to reach or to surpass Christian McCaffrey in fantasy points each year is a McCaffrey injury. Otherwise, he's the dude. So while Bijan's 2023 targets were 3rd at the running back position, he was 19th in carries, and he was around 9th in receptions. So the ball he was targeted, but the ball wasn't getting to him. New quarterback situation in Atlanta, so look for positive regression from every aspect of Bijan's game. All right. Justin Jefferson. I know you saw it in the thummy. You've been waiting for this one, but you already heard. Jefferson gets a record-breaking deal to stay with the Minnesota Vikings. With the bag secured, Justin Jefferson will jet around as much as he pleases with a new deal, which will keep him in Minnesota. He's staying in Minnesota, according to Ian Rappaport. Jefferson is getting a 4-year extension worth up to $140 million, $35 million per year, and $110 million guaranteed. That is the most a wide receiver has ever been paid in the NFL. And of course, he's the best prospect looking in hindsight, and the wide receiver 1 in everybody's eyes at the moment anyway. So of course he gets the bag. Vikings fans, go ahead, breathe a sigh of relief. You won't have to endure losing him. There were a lot of rumors around the drafts, people trying to go after him, people talking about the Vikings trading him, etc. The Justin Jefferson deal will also push the wide receiver market for CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase, who are looking for new contracts, as well as T. Higgins, who's not in that elite level, but he wants a new contract too, and he probably thinks he's in that elite level. At age 25, Justin Jefferson is firmly ranked second in our Dynasty wide receiver rankings over on Player Profiler. Go to there. He scored 20.2 fantasy points per game in 2023 amid an injury-riddled season that saw him only play 10 games. He managed to rattle off his fourth straight 1,000-yard receiving season in 2023, even though he missed time with injury. So look out, Mike Evans, because Jefferson is coming after that 10-year mark. His career high game came in 2022. His career high came in 2022, where he had 1,809 receiving yards, 128 catches, and 8 touchdowns, 21.7 fantasy points per game. We're number 2 at the wide receiver position. If people quibble, if they want to quibble and say Jefferson is not the best wide receiver in the NFL, CeeDee Lamb is about the only guy that you can say. And, there is some, debate over, do I take Jefferson? Do I take Jamar Chase? I'm pretty sure they answered that question before even asking it. All right. Our top story this week. The OTA is wrapping up. All right. Let's talk about some rookie quarterbacks. Those are always good to talk about. In Washington, Jaden Daniels has been very impressive. He's looking at a wide receiver room that includes Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, who is looking to get back to his rookie year form. A consistency at the quarterback position in Jaden Daniels would lead very well to good years from those guys. They also brought in tight end Blake Snott, and they have Cole Turner left over from last year. Part of the problem in Washington the last few years has been what's happening at the quarterback position. Taylor Heineke wasn't the answer. Sam Howell, although he was QB4 during the first 14 weeks of the season, he fell out of favor with the Commanders regime, and they decided to move on. And so now he's in Seattle. They went out and they drafted Jaden Daniels. Now, if I was choosing Jaden Daniels over Sam Howell, as much as I love Sam Howell, I'm still choosing Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels he averaged over 40 points per game in college football fantasy last season. He had one of the top 4 seasons of all time. And the other guys who are in that class are Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and another guy. I mean, that's historic and impressive. And Jaden Daniels stepped right into OTAs with the Commanders and looked the part. All right. In Chicago, Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, they look pretty good. Rome Odunze caught a nice little touchdown pass in 7-on-7. So Caleb Williams looks to be doing his thing. And we're back. Pick it up here. Pick it up here. In Chicago, Caleb Williams, rookie quarterback, and DJ Moore have been working out quite well, developing that rapport that everybody's looking for. In addition, reports have come out talking about Rome Odunze, and he had a nice little catch in the back of the end zone from Caleb Williams in 7-on-7s. Kansas City news. Xavier Worthy is not participating in OTAs. The rookie wide receiver is making his way back from an injury, apparently, and should be ready to go by the beginning of the season. I teased earlier about tight end 2 battles. I got a good one for you. Jeremy Ruckert and Yeboah in New York for the Jets. They will be heavily utilized, according to the New York Jets, behind tight end 1, Tyler Conklin. Regarding Rome Odunze and that touchdown catch, apparently Eberflus is highly impressed by Odunze. Yeah, everybody who's ever watched Rome Odunze comes away impressed. In Philadelphia, we have OTA winners. In the tight end backup battle, we're talking Albert O or Grant Calcaterra. Apparently, Grant Calcaterra has taken over as the tight end 2 behind Dallas Goedert, who has looked good, and Jalen Hurts has been throwing to Goddard a lot. In addition, rookie running back Will Shipley, talk about a sleeper, out of Clemson, looks great in the passing game, and he likely will overtake Kenneth Gainwell as the third down receiving backup to Saquon Barkley. Now, let's talk about Will Shipley for a second. I did a deep dive on Will Shipley, and athletically, he profiles very similar to Jahmyr Gibbs from Detroit, although he's a tiny bit bigger, but he's just as skilled in the passing game. He's about as fast. I think there was a 0.01 difference in their 40 times. So Will Shipley, sleeper alert. The guy is basically Jahmyr Gibbs, but without the draft capital. We talked about New Orleans, Clint Kubiak. Now, Clint Kubiak, again, offensive game, passing game coordinator for the 49ers. And what did the 49ers like to do? They like to throw the ball to their running backs. They like to scheme Deebo Samuel in the backfield. Apparently, in OTAs, Clint Kubiak has been using Taysom Hill as a Swiss Army knife. He's been lining up at halfback. He's been moving out as a tight end. They are using Taysom Hill in a lot of different offensive looks. So look for that this season. That could be a real game changer for New Orleans. We all know that Taysom Hill is eminently talented, and if they're using him in a way that opens everything up for the rest of the guys, I mean, New Orleans could get really scary. And finally, out of Minnesota, in the 2024 NFL draft, there was some scuttlebutt regarding J.J. McCarthy, national champion quarterback out of the University of Michigan. A lot of people talked about his physical talent. However, one of the points that people try to make in shading him a little bit were the fact that he didn't have a huge volume of passing at University of Michigan, thanks to Coach Jim Harbaugh. Now, looking at his combine performance and his skills, his ability on the field, he looks pretty good. However, also he has that top 10 draft capital. The Minnesota Vikings targeted him. Apparently, he was their guy the entire time. However, in OTAs so far, reports out of Minnesota camp are that McCarthy is being outplayed by Sam Darnold. Darnold is, quote, calm, confident, prepared, all things that you want to see. Now, we've seen this story play out before. A quarterback comes in, drafted too high, doesn't catch on right away, takes some years to kind of get used to it. Not everybody can come in and be CJ Stroud. Sometimes people enter the league and they turn out to be Baker Mayfield. Sam Darnold, I've said it in a bunch of different places, could be a breakout quarterback. He might have finally put it all together. And according to the people who are watching the Minnesota OTAs, it looks like it could be Sam Darnold's season. Finally. All right, last note, Harrison Phillips, talking about the Minnesota running back situation. He's really high on Ty Chandler. Says that he doesn't know what's going on over on the offensive side of the ball. He's a defensive tackle for the Vikings. Says that he doesn't know a whole lot about what the plans are on the offensive side of the ball. But as far as like going against players in camp and everything, he thinks that Ty Chandler is the most talented running back on that Minnesota Vikings team. That is going to wrap it up for Player Profiler today, Friday, with Brendon Booth. I have been, and I will remain, Brendon Booth. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share, do all of the things. Go to Player Profiler News on the webs. Go to Player Profiler on Twitter. Follow us there and get all of your news, fantasy related, player news. It doesn't matter. We also have all the tools. Matt Kelly is always here to bring you the greatest tools in the industry, and we really appreciate you guys So thanks again, and I will see y'all next week.